I go from creative to art to design director, being a creative person, really. I've been in the industry over 20 years, and over time, I've developed a keen interest in brand, in connecting with other humans from a digital or print level. It's just that connection that you constantly have. It doesn't matter if you're in marketing or if you're sales. It's just you need to actually converse with people. So I've started to develop this interest in humans, which then developed further into psychology. So that's a keen interest that I've had for a few years now. So I want to introduce that part of my interest and integrate that with my creative career, because I've noticed that how you can connect that human level from a UI perspective, like through an app, obviously through advertising, but also through branding as well. There's many levels that you can integrate that with. So I felt that that was just something that started to organically grow, and now I'm starting to pursue. I've done my first year in psychology. I've put that on hold purely because I don't want to be a case study from my studies.
Yeah.
We did touch on health psychology, and stress was mentioned, and we studied stress. So it's just interesting how stress does change you within. It starts to manifest, but it doesn't come out until you've reached a point. So everyone has different stress thresholds, how much my body can take. And I've taken a lot of stressful moments over the years working in different environments. And as I've told you before, I've worked in great environments, but also toxic environments. So I've tested my stress levels on many areas of my life. And I thought, nah, I don't want to be one of those statistics about stress, and having so many things to juggle at the same time. It does become stressful, but there's also the good stress and there's also the bad stress. So you just need to see what works for you. Everyone has a different threshold. There's no one soft, there's no one hard. Everyone's different. So
Yeah. What is your tolerance in general, right? Like your tolerance for fitness. If you don't train, you don't go to the gym, your tolerance will be low for running. If your tolerance for stress, if you've not experienced high pressure situations, your tolerance will be quite low. But someone like yourself who's experienced different levels of stress, your tolerance would be quite high for stress. I think that's how I always look at it, because over the years I've gone through loads of different levels of stress with running a business, being a freelancer many years ago, working in an agency where I was working 12 16-hour days sometimes. I think it's all about your tolerance for the thing, stress, fitness, whatever it might be.
yeah, and I agree. There's always going to be those moments where you do push yourself physically and mentally beyond what's required, and they're the things that you have to look out for. So if obviously every studio agency company has different seasons, and sometimes the busy season does require you to push past your standard 7.5, 8 hours. When you start to push the 12 mark, 16 mark, you just got to be very mindful that your brain is not as effective as it was at the beginning of the day. So sometimes you just have to say to yourself, I'm beating a dead horse. My brain is not functioning at optimal levels. Why don't I just call it a day, have dinner, have a good night rest, start again early tomorrow in the next day. And then you feel a lot more refreshed. And I think that's what I've noticed over the years. Like everyone stays back, but everyone's mentally fatigued by, 6 p.m. Come 7, 8, 9, you're really, it's a slow burn, and everything is so slow as well, functioning. But I find that you have to monitor your stress levels, whether it's long hours or it's very intense work. Everyone will handle that differently. But like you just said, you have to find a way to release that, whether it's meditating, reading, going out with your kids, if you don't have kids, with your partner, a dog, or a walk. It doesn't matter what you need to do to find that place that grounds you again and relieves you from that stressful situation. I find that fishing, I love fishing. I love playing football. I love playing chess. So anything that really that requires you 100% focus. I know that fishing doesn't require 100% focus, but it's that relaxing where you're just holding the line, you're just looking out towards the beach, the rocks, the ocean. That relaxing moment just brings you down. When it comes to, say, for instance, like I mentioned, chess. Well, for me, chess, is like thinking differently from what I was doing day to day, but it gets me so involved that I have no thoughts but what's in front of me and what my opponent is doing and what I'm going to do. So I think it's just balancing and finding what works. But yeah, long hours, man. We've all been there, done that.
Work for a few minutes, but then you're back going, oh, is there a fish on the line? Is there not a fish on the line? I think it's anything that gives you that gap of silence and space from your thoughts is helpful to relax.
Oh, totally, totally. Whatever it is, whatever is your jazz, it's just finding that time and intentionally setting time aside for yourself. I know people say, I don't have time for myself, I'm too busy. Well, the thing is, you did touch interesting point. Physically, yes, is a release as well. And we tend to focus too much on the physical side, but not on the mental side. And if you think about your day-to-day job, us as creatives, we're all mental. We don't go out, building something with our hands. We're not in that industry. We're using our head like 24/7. So you need to focus on building and having a good mental fitness as well as physical fitness. So I think that needs to be integrated in your life somehow. Like you said, whether it's meditating, could be fishing, because that's a form of meditating when the fish is not on, of course. Reading, anything that you find that is good for the brain, really, your mental health, not just focusing on physical, but there needs to be a balance on the mental side as well.
Yeah. And what I've tried to introduce in our workplace is like frameworks to help people with managing their workload. For example, time management is an area where most people struggle with, no matter how your age. It's not an ageist thing, but so I think giving people frameworks and design processes to follow and go and work through methodically helps people to manage their own time and their projects. And I found that to be of some benefit to our staff. But for you, what do you do to help you manage your stress within the workplace? Or what have you done previously?
Like, say for instance, because I'm contracting at the moment, obviously you need to work out how is the brief being presented, what are the procedures in place, because you can bring your own procedures and processes in place, but it may not align with that creative agency or brand that you're contracting for. So for me, how do I manage my day work and the stress load? Well, I just need to make sure that, hey, what are the timings? Like, are they realistic? Because that's the thing that will stress you out straight away. When you get given a project, doesn't matter if you're full-time or freelance, what is the timings? And then based on our experience, because we've been in the industry for a while, you get to work out, hey, that's realistic or unrealistic. So first thing I do is, okay, that's the project. Great. Understand. I've asked all the questions, the deadline. Okay. Why is such a tight deadline? And because you need to know, you just can't assume it's just tight and unrealistic. Why is it such a tight? Then the project manager or the client manager will then tell you why. So then you've got to say, well, outline all the issues that may not be able to meet that from a realistic point of view. And that's you doing your job as an expert, as a creative, to say, not realistic, I'm pushing back, however, can deliver, but at what quality do you want me to deliver? That's the big question. And because we live in a society now that everything is quick turnaround, right? Oh, well, I can get this logo done on Fiverr overnight by a student. Yeah, sure, go. If that's what you want to do, go ahead. Like, go pay $2 for a logo to be made. But that is someone who you possibly exploiting at the same time because they're trying to build a portfolio and they're willing to take $2, which is nothing in certain countries, but definitely here wouldn't probably get you a sundae at McDonald's. But
Wouldn't even get you a coffee.
But $1 coffee at 7-Eleven, yeah, you could probably get 2 of those. So yeah, it's just working out, what those parameters are. Can it be pushed back? Because then what you're trying to do, and this is the thing with creatives, when you're stressed as a creative, you're not thinking straight because you're reacting. So there's a lot of opportunities being missed because all you're focusing on is that deadline, for instance. That could be one of the problems. And if that is causing you to not deliver the work that you want to deliver, it's because that, hey, this deadline is really putting pressure on me. And because I'm under pressure, the stress levels have just gone through the roof. Stress doesn't make you think or think straight at all. That's just a given. It doesn't make you think straight at all. So you've got to then say, how do I get around this? Like, what do I need to put in place at work that even though, let's say, this deadline doesn't get shifted, what can I do to bring my stress levels down? Because I can't think or function or get creative or do this because I'm just constantly having this bell reminding me of the deadline. So one thing you could do is just short breathing exercises. Like, just step out of your environment, step outside, go for a ciggy break, but we won't call it a ciggy break. We'll call it a meditated break. Go and have that break, do some breathing, and it may help relieve and bring down that pressure and stress. Or maybe you don't need that. Maybe you just need to walk around the block, go grab a coffee, or even if you just walk around the block, you just need to find something that helps you bring yourself and that stress levels down so you can actually think and be able to perform. It is hard because it always in the background, that deadline, but you just have to find ways to make it work for you.
Yeah.
Every environment's different, as you know.
Yeah.
Every studio has a different vibe. You know, sometimes it's all positive and it feels great when you walk in. Sometimes you walk into a culture and you're like, oh, you can just sense it. Even that starts to add a bit of pressure in your head.
Yeah.
And you just have to be mindful of wherever that pressure is coming from. How do you manage that yourself? Because at the end of the day, you have to deliver something, and how you deliver it is a reflection of you. So just find your best self, really.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there with a couple of tips as well. One thing that I do, or I get my colleagues to do, is to, we have ongoing work and it just flows in to the studio, and then it's down to the individual to manage their own workload. What I say to some of my colleagues is that, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work, you should start off by looking at how long things will take you to do and go, okay, project A is going to take me 4 hours, project B is going to take me 6 hours, and it's for some reason it's been asked of me that I get both these projects done on the same day. So then, as you mentioned, the quality will need to be reduced somewhere, or the scope needs to change, or the deliverable date needs to be moved or shifted. And I found that really helpful, and it's something that I've used my entire life. I just go, how much time do I need to allocate to these things? I write my to-do list. For me, I tick off 6 things a day, every day, and the rest of it shifts. That's my minimum. If I get 6+ things ticked, I'm very, very happy. I feel like I've really achieved my personal targets. But sometimes things just take longer than what you expected initially, and that's fine. And I think walking, taking breaths, taking a pause for 5 minutes will allow you to engage with the work for a few hours, and then it's rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
exactly. And it's always good that now that you are the owner, you're the managing director of your company, because you've lived that, you can help the next generation and try to help them to be as creative as possible by removing those parts that you've experienced.
That's it, mate. 100%.
Yeah, you just lead them to that creative heaven that we want them to go. Got some problems along the way, but like I said, there's good and bad stress. If sometimes they need to manage the stress themselves and whatnot, it's live and learn, isn't it? It's a journey in this creative industry as well as life. So yeah.
So almost 2 decades of experience in industry. Let's talk a little bit about your freelance life versus in-agency life. What are some of the pros and cons? And let's start with being a freelancer versus being in an agency. What are some of the pros of being a freelancer versus working in-house for you?
So as a freelancer, it's great. You get to pick your own projects, but at the same time, the reality is it's a hustle. So yes, it's all great that you come into a studio and they've seen your portfolio and they brought you in based on your portfolio and you get these juicy projects. Great. But sometimes there are those boring projects that, hey, we know what you're capable of doing, but we don't have that work because we need help with this, whatnot. Okay, everyone has to do the boring stuff from time to time. Get it? No worries. As a freelancer, you have a lot of options, or sometimes you don't. So it's feast or famine. Sometimes you take up these jobs that really don't inspire you. And that's the struggle sometimes, getting to getting out of bed, going to a job that really is not going to push the needle in your creative direction or career path, but it's going to push the needle towards paying off a debt, paying lunch, going to the pub, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? So the needle constantly swings, and that's the challenging part as well. That as a freelancer, there's the challenge of it's just a hustle. Sometimes it rains and you've got so many options, so many projects coming at you. Great. And then sometimes it's just there's nothing, and that's just the ebbs and flows. And I guess that nothingness as well, for me anyway, has helped me because I've then put that time into being with my family, my kids, picking them up, dropping them off at school, or participating in their carnivals or whatever it is. But also that time I've used to read, to study psychology, as I mentioned before, or do any other thing that interests me. So I guess it's how you use that downtime it's the calm before the storm, how you use that time before the storm hits you again and you don't even have time for anything. So yeah, that's I guess the pros and cons to freelancing. I guess now, as I've told you before, I have worked on agency side for pretty much most of my career. It was only about 4 years that I was on client side. Client side was a big eye opener. I was curious about it. I was brought on as the creative lead, and I didn't know what to expect. It's a startup company focusing on mental health and well-being. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'm interested in that space already. So I'm already gravitating towards working for this company. The fact that it's a creative role, yeah, okay, it ticks both boxes. But how will I go with just working on one brand? I've never done that. And being the leader in this space, because I was then given the task to create and build a team out and lead the team to facilitate and to service the company. So I was like, this is going to be a challenge because I've worked with many projects with different brands, but never on one. So how am I going to stay inspired? How am I going to stay creative? How am I going to engage with this when this is the one brand that I've got? And I discovered that, yeah, it's challenging. And that's what I liked about it. Like, you have this brand that you're actually nurturing. You're putting a lot of yourself into it to grow, to elevate it to a different level, and also to connect with the audience. So this company, being a health tech startup, they had different, obviously, groups because it's health tech, and I've never worked with different groups, like so much diversity. HR, sales team, the development team, the interactive and UX designers, the product team, the marketing team. So you're working with all these teams and they're relying on you to give them the creative and the brand leadership. So whatever that is, so obviously the brief would come from the head of marketing, who I work closely with, and we were servicing the sales team as well as the company. So obviously two different things. Like, one is, hey, how do we connect with these perspectives? This is what we want to tell them, whatnot. So how do I engage with that? And then you're brainstorming and doing a workshop for the UI for the app. So I love the diversity of you're catering for one group, then you're jumping on to another, and you're working closely with them on a different level of design and brand. So it's for me, it was just fascinating, and it just opened up this world. I was like, oh wow, I didn't think it was going to be this way. I didn't know what to expect really, but I loved it. And I loved building the team out, having that in-house agency to service the company, being the creative head there to show the direction where the company should take the brand. Just building out strategic roadmaps for the marketing team. You get these different projects. And once I got asked, hey, G, we're going to be doing a lot of thought leadership work, so we just want a white paper. And I was like, oh, okay, a white paper. I thought to myself, that's boring. How do we push this to make it exciting? Because I didn't want to lose that edge that you have as a creative. Like, how do we inject something and make it exciting? So I challenged the project marketing manager and I said, have you thought about pushing this to a different level? She goes, what do you mean? So I said, well, let me put a mood board together and my ideas and come back to you. So I did that. And it went from a white paper to me writing out a roadmap. So we started white paper, and then it led towards doing events, webcasts, podcasts. And then while I'm presenting this, obviously the white paper should be something more like a nice creative publication style, not just a boring, bland, dry white paper. Like push it, push the design of it. And she was on board with that. And then we had a brainstorm session about what I presented. And then out of that, webcasts, podcasts, events for the specific thought leadership issues. So you're really building this whole roadmap. And it just went from one brief to this whole like roadmap. And that's what I love about it. Like, because sometimes certain people think within a box. You as a creative have learned to think outside the box as well. And that's what is good about whether you're working in-house, whether you're an agency side or client side. That should never leave you despite your environment and where you're at. You should always try to look outside of the box. And what that looks like, yeah, I don't know unless you have the brief in front of me. But yeah, just find ways of injecting that and staying curious, I guess, and pushing and exploring. That should never leave you, despite whether you're an agency side, client side, freelancing full time. It should be within you as a creative.
I think that adds huge value to anyone, any business. If you're an individual that offers that way of thinking, like always trying to push the brief and thinking outside the box with your creative brain, whether it's more left or right engaged, doesn't matter. I think that your lens can add so much value. And like you said, for your previous job where you were given a brief and you went, no, let's do these things instead and make it a much bigger and more impactful campaign versus just a silly white paper that might have added value, but then this will add so much more value to the proposition. And I think we miss that sometimes within our business. Often we get caught up with just going straight to execution and we forget about looking at the bigger picture and how do I push this brief. And I guess some people struggle with, when do I push? When do I not push? When do I just go straight to execution? When do I have some playtime and time to think? And I think that really stems from, what is this? What is the brief? How much time have I got? How can I add value to the project? And going outside for a walk, taking a breath, managing my stress levels, so then I can come to work with my best self and offer that level of thinking. And I think really that is probably the roadmap and the framework for anyone who's listening to this that's unsure on how to manage stress and how to manage and work and how to give their best self. It's like, they're the things. Somehow we covered them together and laid it all out for people to listen to. And I'm sure my colleague Jen will get lots of experience, lots of knowledge from this ways of working.
Oh yeah, there's many aspects to health. So that's just one on how to deal with it, what I've mentioned. But health is such a broad subject that even what you eat, what you drink can either add to your stress or not, or add to your creative thinking or not. So health itself is so broad that if you really want to work optimally, you should spend the time to find out what works for you and how you can be your best self every day.
What I'd love to do is have another session with you, maybe in a few months' time, where we talk about like how to like your diet and the health benefits and how to help you show up best for your work. Because I think we could have a lot of conversations around that. I've been exploring so much about that industry for myself because I've been dealing with a lot of stress. Obviously, running a business comes with its own level of stress, so just trying to manage that through. But to stay on topic, with regards to the freelancer versus agency side of things, I found the benefits, pros and cons, to be similar to yourself. I think when you're in agency, you are fully giving 100% of yourself to that company, yes, for a salary, but also you're all in, right? So you're trying to move the needle within that business. When you're a freelancer, you do it for many other reasons. I feel, for me, when I was freelancing, it was the freedom to work on my own terms. So I quite enjoyed the hustle of having to try and find a bit of work here and there, and then being busy, and then being quiet, and then being comfortable with that silence of not having any work, knowing that I'd put in the hard work a few months before and I could kind of afford a few weeks where the money wasn't necessarily coming in. And I think you get comfortable with doing that over time. The other thing that I found from freelancing was that it gives you an opportunity to test the waters with businesses.
Yes.
So my first reason for going freelance, which was back in my first stint as a freelancer was back in 2013, 14, and I didn't have much experience. And I was only booked on a few gigs, but the one gig where I was like, this is the company where I want to stay, was the company that then offered me a job. And I stayed there for like 6 years. And it was the best job for me because it enabled me to learn and grow so much to then set up my own company and then create a company that supports our staff to live their best life. So yeah, there's some of the things that I took from it. I think one of the problems that we have in industry at the moment is that there's a lot of freelancers that probably shouldn't be freelancers. They should probably be in agency, learning their craft, honing their skills. And I think with the evolution of this tech industry that we're living in, like, you know, AI, people have access to Adobe either free or very cheap, and which is great and offers people huge opportunity, which I actually love to see, you know, someone go from 0 to 100% and then go and get a job. I think that offers massive opportunity in the world for many, many people. But at the same time, I think we also have this issue of, I don't know if this is just in Australia, but I've experienced that, you know, you hire freelancers that say that they can do X, Y, and Z, they come in and then they actually can't deliver on what they promised. And I think that's been a huge issue for us over the years, where we've had people come in and not really deliver against what they said they could. And I guess that's part of the game, isn't it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is. Like there has been some juicy projects that I've had and I've connected well with. But there's also been some projects where I haven't connected well with. And like we just touched base before, your health plays a part, your stress, it all plays a part. And when you do show up on the day, and you don't deliver work, sometimes you just don't connect with that project. And that's on the unfortunate side, for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Just don't connect, and all of a sudden you're not producing what you would normally produce. It's a challenge. A freelance gig, a contract gig, is a massive challenge, because when you're hired to do something, it doesn't matter what you're going through in your life. It's like game day. You've got to show up and perform. No excuses, nothing. And if you don't perform, you're not going to get called back. And so that's the pressure that a contract and freelancer puts on themselves as well, if they care about the job, obviously. So there's so many variables there. You do enough contracting, enough freelancing, you start to develop this system of knowing how to control, how to show up, how to be your best self. But like you said, you've got to learn the craft. You've got to put in the time. You know, sometimes you may jar with the project manager, you know, the way they've delivered a brief or spoken to you. All of a sudden your head starts going, why did they treat me like that? That's not how you treat someone. And all of a sudden you're focused on that, not the project. And other things start popping in your headspace, and all of a sudden you're mentally distracted, physically present, mentally distracted, and all of a sudden you're not producing the work that you've been hired to do. So there's variables there. I can't answer that question on.
I think it's about the ingredients that you give yourself that allows you to show up and be your 100% best self. And I think that's probably some of the things that we've experienced, and that, you know, we're distracted by, you know, thousands of messages a day. As a freelancer, you're probably even more getting emails about bookings and recruiters contacting you, trying to get you to book on another job the next day. And so, I think it's interesting. It's an interesting time as well.
Oh, totally. With AI taking off on so many different levels and platforms, even in the creative industries, you know, it's not to feel threatened by certain AI platforms. I see it as a way as a tool, just like all our other creative tools that we have at our disposal. It's a tool to help, obviously, other people who can't afford creatives or can't come to you. They will use those AI platforms to be able to produce the content they need. It ticks that box. But as you've discovered, these platforms online, the templates and the work look aesthetically pleasing, design wise amazing. But when someone takes that without having the creative eye or experience and starts putting their content, it looks so far away from where it started that they have to go back to a creative, whether it's a freelancer or a company like yourself, to get them involved to bring it back to that level. And that's what I've noticed as well. Like, there is a ton of those jobs that have started in a good place because the template looks so great, but it's far from it when they end with it.
It's that whole thing around quality again, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much are you willing to invest in the quality side of the work that you're producing? And I think often I've seen that so many times as well, G, like exactly what you said. We create beautiful templates, and then the next week we're seeing social marketing being produced by a marketing manager who doesn't have a design eye, doesn't have the passion, cares, but doesn't understand how to make things look visually appealing. And then so they find themselves back at square one, where it's like, actually it probably would have cost you less money
And time.
and time, and you would have got the quality that you needed to just employ a design resource to support you. And I think this is the kind of where I'm seeing so many problems in the industry, where it's a bit like the Wild West. I'll compare it to that, where it's just like, we've got Canva, great, fantastic, but all the problems that are coming out of it from a design perspective is that, we create these templates and then they're bastardized, and then the work that goes out is not at the standard that it should be, and the clients don't realize, or the businesses don't realize, because they don't have the visual capabilities in house to oversee and manage it. So yes.
That is so true. Based on that, I would add that with that, like, there are marketing managers or anyone else who uses these templates. There's not criticizing them, because they're doing what they've been told by someone and they're trying to produce the content. So it's not a reflection of them, because they're not creative in the first place. However, though, it is as you said, it is a problem. But the problem goes further. So when marketing managers or whoever tries to dish out content out to the world, they don't realize that they're sacrificing the biggest thing that they've got, and that's the brand equity.
Yes. Oh.
And that is another subject in itself. The brand equity just fails if someone doesn't produce what is already been elevated, and then they send something that's been downgraded, so to speak. And so the brand suffers, because now the perception of that brand is a garage company that has gone back, and maybe someone who's seen it for the first time and doesn't know about the company will look at that going, oh, okay, don't like how that's been presented. So what is their service, or what are their products like? If this is how they're presenting themselves to the world, I don't think I'm going to approach them, because I'm not getting that confidence that I would if I saw an established brand who actually cared and nurtured their brand and built that equity up. So I think, yes, there are these AI platforms that do offer this great content for you to put in your own, if you don't have a designer or don't have an external support. But it comes at a sacrifice when you go down that road and give it to someone who doesn't have a creative eye or experience. And so I had to, when I was on client side, we had one digital marketing manager. He's a gun at what he does, absolute weapon. And he came from a company where he did the content. So I was working with him, and my head of marketing manager said, have you seen what this guy has done? And I said, no. She goes, I'll have a look. And I said, yeah, sure. So she knows, so her and I have been working together. This guy is very helpful and was trying to help me, because I had so much on. So I was then starting to oversee certain projects that before they were going out. So I had a look at it, and I got to say, he did a decent job. But as a creative person, you just push that further to a more refined level. So he did well, but you take him there. So I said to him, look, I'll just we need to change this and that. And he goes, oh, but why? It's good enough. I said, that's the problem. The problem is you perceive it to be good enough, but you're entering my world. And I don't say that with arrogance. I say
Yeah.
that with humility. Um, and this is what I specialize in. If I was to go in your world and do something quickly, these red flags will come up and you would help finesse that to be something better. Well, in my world, we don't want to send that out because I've already built and elevated this brand up. No
Yeah.
criticism to you, but this is downgrading that work that I've done and put in for years.
Yep.
And we need to just bring that up to that level.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're trying to build a brand and have it feel established, have like customers feel confident in what they're investing in, whether it's time or money. And I think that's where people get this wrong. We're sending out content on the fly. Sure, it ticks a KPI, ticks something, an objective, but it comes at a sacrifice. And I think that's the balance that, every company is different. You can't expect a startup to afford an agency like yourself or a creative freelancer. I get that and I understand that. But when the time comes for you to build a brand, you really have to think about, does this brand do what it needed to do? If it does, okay. But then you have to have a checklist, a brand health checklist.
Yeah.
And I think that checklist will help you really judge what you're about to send out to the world. And so whether you find that checklist online for free, if you're a startup, sure, but learn from certain tips. That there's all these tips and all this information online. You can find something that will help elevate it. Even if you can't afford a creative person, well, then you can afford spending 5 minutes online finding something that will help you. So I think brand is another subject, but you've got to build that equity to that level of confidence.
Mate, now on the head stuff. I love everything you said there, and I agree with all of it. Like, I talk about brand equity so much with our clients. We have clients come and go often, and I say to them, if you work with us for 1 year, the amount of assets and investment that you pay us to do the work and deliver the work, but at the same time, with that investment, your dividends are that you get quicker work produced. You get a company that understands your brand, that can elevate your projects and briefs, and that brand equity is invested. And whether that's with a freelancer or an internal resource or an agency, I think companies need to be thinking about that across all touch points, whether it's the work that goes out, the people that they use, the team that they've built. What are you working on at the moment over the next few months? What's happening for you, and how can people get out and get in touch?
Right. So for me, I've got a logo and brand identity, a few jobs actually in that space. So I am going to be busy in that world. Also the strategy side of it, which is great. And also I'll be contracting in between. So I'm going to be juggling a few things and I guess that is the season. I guess it's really starting to ramp up. So I've been getting occupied with that, but also what the future holds for me. I love the fact that psychology has opened up my world a bit further from my creative experience in life. So integrating that more closely with my creative experience is what I want to pursue in the sense of strategic side as well, in terms of just how do I connect and storytell better from a brand perspective. So, and from a creative as well. So not just brand, it's brand and creative. So that's what I want to learn and grow into that space.
Yep.
Continuing my degree at some point, my bachelor's at some point, because I just love psychology. So it just fascinates me. From neuroscience to behavior, all of that just fascinates me. So yeah, that's, if people want to reach me and have a chat, just through LinkedIn.
Yep. We'll put your details in the link when we share the podcast. But mate, appreciate you so much for coming into our office and having a chat with me. And like I said, I think we've covered a lot of really good juicy topics there, from AI to how to manage stress. So I think there'll be lots of benefit and for anyone listening. And I'd love to have another chat with you in a few months' time.
Yeah, definitely. It's been fun, mate. Thanks for having me, for the invite. It was great of you. So thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate that.